Hey guys, I'm going to do my October wrap up today. I know it's pretty far into November at this point, like halfway through, that's all. But I figured if I'm gonna do it, I might as well do it now. So I read a lot of books in October actually, so I'm just kind of going to list them off one by one, and then after I've listed everything off, I'll go back and I'll talk about the ones that I really enjoyed or have something specific to say. The first book that I read in October is The History of Torture by Brian Innes. It is a nonfiction book about the history of torture. Imagine that. The next book was Forever Odd by Dean Thomas. It is the sequel to Odd Thomas, and I won't get into my feelings about that just yet. The next one was part 1 of Under the Dome by Stephen King. I don't have part 2 yet, otherwise I would have read that as well. The next was From the Corner of His Eye by Dean Koontz. Mortuary Confidential by Kenneth Mackenzie and Todd Hara. Sorry, I can never remember their names. Then Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. Bag of Bones by Stephen King. Gerald's Game, also by Stephen King. The Beast from the East by R.L. Stine. Vampire Breath, also by R.L. Stine. And Attack of the Mutant by R.L. Stine. Now, these aren't the only books that I read. There were others that I read that I don't have a physical copy. Some of the other books that I read in October but I don't have a copy of with me at the moment are The Undertaker's Daughter by Kate Mayfield, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter by Seth Graham Smith, The Martian by Andy Weir. Great book. I know I'm not supposed to be getting reviews right now, but I just really love that one. Time Crawlers by Varun Sayal. That was one of my indie spotlight authors. Haze, The Devil of Dublin by Hayes O'Hagan. That was another one of my indie spotlight authors. The Dark Half by Stephen King, which I lent to my husband for his classroom. And I think that's it. Yeah. That's all of the books that I read in October but don't have a physical copy of at the moment. The Martian I had a physical copy of, but I actually sent to someone else from Bookstagram in a giveaway, which I don't regret at all. It's such a great book and she won it fair and I'm going to start off talking about Forever Odd by Dean Koontz. I actually didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to. I loved Odd Thomas. And thought I was going to feel the same way about Forever Odd, but it didn't feel like it had the same kind of oomph, and it kind of felt like it was going off in a totally different direction. I'm really hoping that this isn't what I have in store for the rest of the books. I'm gonna keep reading the series. Like, I enjoyed the first one that much, where I want to know more about Odd Thomas. I actually have Brother Odd on my bookshelf at the moment, and I need to start collecting the rest of the books. Who knows? We'll see. I hope it's a lot better. This one, it wasn't bad. I'm not saying it was necessarily a bad book. It just did not live up to the same expectation as the first book, which was excellent. Actually, absolutely adored it. If you want to read the books, then the first one, absolutely this place to start. Because people usually just pick up the last one first. Carrie, great analysis. The next book that I want to talk about is Mortuary Confidential, Undertaker Spilled the Dirt by Kenneth Mackenzie and Todd Hara. I really enjoyed reading this book. It didn't really exceed my expectations necessarily, but I enjoyed reading it. For those who don't know, I'm studying to be a funeral director, mortician, however you want to put it. But that is going to be my line of work. And I've heard similar stories to some of the ones in this book already, because I kind of just have a collection of spooky books that I'll probably do a video on at some point, honestly. but I still really enjoyed it and would really recommend it to anyone who was interested in that line of work, or is just interested in stories concerning undertakers, morticians, funeral directors, all that. The third book that I want to talk about is Gerald's Game by Stephen King. And if you watched my 24-hour readathon, then you know this book fucked me up. It was intense. It's such a good book. I'm not going to say not to read it, but I'm just going to give you guys just like a huge trigger warning right now, because it's highly upsetting. But it's also so well written and just creepy and just, I don't know, it's really good. But if you have an issue with books discussing the topic of molestation or sexual assault or anything of that sort, I would definitely steer clear of it, because I really didn't know what I was getting into when I started this book. And I had to stop it for about 10-15 minutes during my 24-hour readathon, because it just affected me that strongly. It just, whew. I literally cried on camera. That should tell you something. I hate crying. The next book that I want to talk about is The Road by Cormac McCarthy, excuse me. This is another one of those books that was really rough to read. It was really good. It's a dystopian novel. And it's just not happy at all. There's like nothing about it that's happy. But at the same time, it's both heartwarming and heartbreaking somehow. It's a very sweet, tender story that just deals with the struggle of this father and his son after this apocalyptic event. And it's so sad. I know I'm not exactly being verbose about it, but after I read this book, this was before Gerald's Game actually, but after I read The Road, I started reading the next book I want to discuss, which is Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. I had to read Good Omens because I knew it was a comedy, and The Road just messed me up so much. I was torn up. I had to find a comedy in something I was sitting there watching cat videos and stuff like that, and was still kind of crying. By the time my husband got home from work, it was both really good and really bad. Now, Good Omens, it was hilarious. I adored it. I've loved everything that I've read by Neil Gaiman. I've read American Gods and Anansi Boys, and this is the third book that I've read by him. Haven't read anything else yet, but I absolutely plan on it. Terry Pratchett, haven't read anything by him, but I know that he does the Discworld books, which are on my list of books to read eventually. But for now, I really love this book. I immediately fell in love with Crowley. I'm so excited that it's getting like a mini-series, I'm pretty sure, and David Tennant's gonna be in it. Like, are you kidding? I fucking love David Tennant, and Good Omens, and Crowley. Like, all of these things. Please, yes, give me more. I'm waiting. The last book that I want to discuss, I don't have a physical copy of anymore because I honestly gave it away almost immediately after I read it, because I just was not into it. And that's Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter by Seth Grahame-Smith. And I went in expecting it to be a tongue-in-cheek comedy, action, thriller mixture, and that's not what I got at all. It kind of just felt like a conspiracy theorist rewriting Abraham Lincoln's biography to include vampires. And yeah, that's a cool concept for a small amount of time, but you can't just do that for the entire book, in my opinion, and it'd still be interesting. I was expecting it to kind of break itself up a little bit more, because it does include portions where it's from the perspective of another character, who's learning about all of this stuff and that vampires exist. And I was hoping to see things a lot more from his perspective, and definitely hoping for a lot more comedy than I ended up getting. But it was just, I don't know, it was just a lot of conspiracy theory presented as fact, in my opinion. And it was one of those books where it's like, I can see why other people enjoyed it, but I personally couldn't get into it. I couldn't, because I was expecting one thing and just got something else completely different. Nothing like what I expected at all. And it wasn't for me. I couldn't get into it. So I'm sorry to those of you out there who did enjoy it. I just couldn't do it. Thank you guys so much for joining me for my October wrap-up. Don't forget to like and subscribe and, help the poor channel out. I'm still growing. Just one subscriber at a time. One like at a time. But yeah, don't forget to share with your friends, comment, do whatever you want to. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but it'd be nice. Thanks for sticking around, and I hope you have a good day. So I was just going back through my video to work on some editing and noticed that I said that Forever Odd was by Dean Thomas. It is by Dean Koontz, right there, in big letters. Not Dean Thomas. The character from Harry Potter did not pick up a writing career in his spare time. But if he did, I would probably read his books, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, yes, just clarifying, Dean Koontz wrote Forever Odd. Not a fictional character, to my disappointment.